Welcome to this live webinar tonight. We are coming to you from the ICMS campus here in Manly, the beautiful Great Hall, actually, which hopefully some of you amazing future students will get to study here and experience for yourself. My name is Todd Palioka. I'm the Senior Vice President here at ICMS, and joined alongside me is Juliet Wilson, who's actually the Marketing Coordinator here at ICMS and also a ICMS marketing student. And the two lovely ladies below who look like they're just getting ready for the Oscars. And I'm super excited because with these webinars, sometimes you don't know the people that you get to speak to. And I'm really lucky to know both of these incredibly successful women. We have Ali King and Stephanie King, who no, it's not a coincidence. They are sisters. And that is why this webinar is called Students to Sister Startup Success. So for us tonight, we're going to get to know Ali and Steph a little bit better. We're going to hear their story. We're also really here for you guys too. So we want you to feel free to ask any questions. You can actually just type in the questions. Now, the good thing is you can really type anything you want because only we can see what you ask. So feel free to just dive in there and ask what you would like to know. We're going to cover a lot of topics, but I think the most important thing here is we have two very successful young ladies who are pioneers in their field, and they're also people that are fun, and that's what we want to do too. We want to have fun tonight and just have a great experience. So Ali and Stephanie, welcome. Thank you for attending tonight. When does your award ceremony start?
The curtains are about to open.
Oh, great. Well,
at the end.
Yeah. We look forward to the invitation after that. But look, I don't the secret that I know, but actually one of the sisters here went to ICMS, which is super cool because we remember her as a student and seeing her grow into such an incredible businesswoman. So Ali, to kind of start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you went to high school, and then a little bit about your university experience?
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for having us, Todd and Juliet. My name is Ali. I am now the co-founder and one of the directors of Ask Marketing, and I am ICMS alumni. Todd, can you remember how many years ago I graduated? Was it 11 or 12 this year? I actually can't remember.
Look, we're not counting anymore.
we're not counting.
Double figures, we stopped counting.
Yeah, I think, definitely in the double figures now. But it's lovely to have you all here. And as I said, I am ICMS alumni. I studied a Bachelor of Business Administration with the International College of Management, as I said, in the double digits. I think around 12 years ago I graduated, so around 15 years ago I started. Todd, what would you like me to touch on here? Do you want me to go into a little bit about my journey since then?
Well, I think it would be nice to hear about your experience at ICMS and kind of how it was without, obviously it's a 6 p.m. time slot, so
I can add those details later.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I studied, and I must also preface, because this is probably important for many of you who are thinking about attending ICMS. I actually studied on campus, so I lived in Moran House, and I guess to paint a little bit of context for you, both Stephanie and myself went to school in the country, about 3 hours outside of Sydney. So the excitement, first and foremost, of traveling back from my gap year in London to study and be living in Sydney, but not just Sydney, of course, living on Manly Beach, which was one of the most incredible factors, I guess, which drew me to ICMS from the first place, from the outset, I should say.
We used to call it the castle on the hill,
as I'm sure many of you refer to it as still today. So I was extremely excited. And I guess the reason I mentioned growing up in the country is the fact that I found ICMS a really nice, I guess, gateway into living into Sydney. I've never been a city girl. I really was drawn to the ocean and living by the beach. And I guess that much to probably my parents, dislike, was the reason that I was so drawn to ICMS as a starting point, as opposed to going to somewhere that was much more in the city. And so I actually lived on campus. I can't remember how many semesters I lived on campus for. I believe it was 3. So that was a year. And I lived in Moran House. I think I was in the 300s was my room. So I faced the sea, which was really beautiful. And I just have such fond memories. So as I mentioned, I studied a Bachelor of Business Administration, and I actually specialized in hospitality and hotel management with the intent at the time to go and become a general manager of a hotel. That's what I thought I wanted. At the time, I was working at the Sheraton on the Park in Elizabeth Street, just 2 streets from our office here now. And I was also working at Hugo's Manly, which is still obviously such an iconic place down in Manly, still there today. And the goal, as I mentioned, was to become a general manager of a hotel. But as Todd would know, I guess the underlying thing that made me so drawn to ICMS, and I guess what also was encouragement from our parents, was, of course, the underlying degree was in business. So I knew that even though I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, I thought I wanted to progress within the hospitality and hotel industry, probably because of our love for travel. I knew that underwriting degree in business was absolutely going to set me up no matter what path I kind of took. So yeah, I think that was a really nice starting place. And I, the room that Todd and Juliet are sitting in now is where I did all of my kind of, practical experience with, in the GDR, as we called it. I'm not sure if you still call it that, in the grand dining room. And I just had an absolutely wonderful time. And I just so remember so many of my business and marketing lecturers, my marketing law lecturer in particular, who taught me some of the things that I still apply in a day-to-day capacity. So,
and your 6 best friends
and my 6 best, yeah, that's a really
students.
Good point, actually. My 6 best friends today that were bridesmaids at my wedding were, the best friends that I'm, now, excitedly caring after their children and, kind of growing up with, are still my 6 best friends from ICMS, and we have a group chat that's still on Facebook Messenger from the term 2 of year 1 of my degree. So yeah, I hope that paints a really kind of practical picture of my experience there.
That chat would have some historic archiving.
I think it's got something like 5,500 photos if you go into the links.
Wow.
God.
Yeah, well, Facebook knows everything now, so they
no hiding.
They're no hiding. Look, and that's such a good point, Ali. And there's so many things to take out of that. But I think one of the biggest things is that for all of you listening that and watching, that you don't have to know exactly what you want to do if you have a business background, and proof is with Ali, and also the friendship side. And I didn't attend ICMS, but I've seen it, that there is this way of meeting people here, because it is that smaller knit community, and they do become your best friends. While for a lot of people that choose a more traditional university, your good friends are more your high school friends. So I think that's a huge difference. So Steph, we're not minimizing your experience, even though you didn't go to ICMS, don't worry. But do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got to this point, and a little bit about your tertiary education as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I had a little bit of experience at ICMS through Ali, of course, having lots of fun. But yeah, so my journey is quite unique in that, as Ali mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders as well of Ask Marketing, which is a marketing company. But my journey after school was actually science. So I went to uni and studied exercise science, and my goal was to be an exercise physiologist or a physiotherapy, or ultimately, back then it was to be a dietitian. And did my three years at uni, completely changed paths. I came out of that, kind of had changed my tune a little bit, and decided to go back to uni, and I did a Master of Business. And that probably was the best decision I ever did, because from a transferable skills perspective, and the lessons learnt through business itself have been priceless. So another 2 years at uni doing a master's, this time online, whilst working full time. And yeah, that's really kind of equipped me with so many different skills from a broader sense across a whole range of business areas. I did do a major in marketing, so that's kind of the pathway into marketing in the first place. But just holistically, it really taught me skills for life, from, you know, the financial side to the operational side of business. And I think that's, you know, I felt very comfortable in that degree, and very practical, and really grounded me, I guess, to start on a path to business myself.
I'll just add to that, like, to paint a little bit of context, because it is so, I guess, relevant for this conversation. So whilst, if we kind of park Stephanie's undergraduate in exercise science and just talk about our business degrees for a moment, our roles are very different in our company now, being Ask Marketing, and I kind of head up the marketing and strategy side of the business, and you know, sales and business development, and Stephanie heads up our I guess our people and our finance. So we have very, very split roles in the company, and I guess that underwriting kind of, or underlying tonality of business across what we do has basically allowed us to specialize in our now company in the fields that we have a lot of interest in. So Stephanie's a real maths brain, and you know, takes on a lot of kind of, you know, that kind of side of our business, and looks after like working with all of our payroll team and things like that, and then and finances. And I kind of tackle the strategy side, like the kind of big picture business development side of things. So I just thought I'd add that, because it's, whilst we're in a marketing company, our, I guess, underlying skill sets have stemmed from the business degree. For sure.
Many different facets to running a business that you, whilst it's a marketing company, there's everything to running a business. So we've learnt along the way, for sure.
Yeah. And Ali and Steph, could you give us both a bit of an insight into your professional careers before you actually started Ask Marketing? Like, what did you guys do before that?
Yeah, of course.
You start.
Okay, sure. So I graduated from ICMS that unknown number of years ago, let's call it 12. And I, to be quite honest with you, so I graduated, I started in Jan, so I graduated in December, like Christmas time, about this kind of time of year. And I remember something quite distinct happened that kind of changed my path. And I won't go into it too much, but I basically made the decision upon working one Christmas day at the Sheraton on the park that I no longer wanted to work in hospitality. And of course, it was one of those like, yes, moments where I kind of was like, I've got this amazing underwriting degree in business. What else could I do? So I just did what I guess any graduate does these days, which is, in fact, I must preface, back then, I think I applied on Seek. Now it would be LinkedIn.
And I have LinkedIn jobs existed.
No, LinkedIn jobs definitely didn't exist. And I applied for a role. I can't remember how many I applied for. I probably applied for, you know, in the tens, I'd say, of jobs. And I applied for a role, which was a marketing coordinator role. So an entry-level marketing role. This is before digital marketing kind of became such a diverse field. And it was a marketing coordinator role. So if you think about, you know, utilizing and learning how to use Adobe and the full suite of InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, being able to, you know, so design documents, being able to build an e-commerce website, all of the kind of like entry level on the tools, I guess, capabilities or capacity of a junior marketing resource. That's what I applied for in a tech company, which was at the time called Brightpoint Australia. And they were basically the Australian distributor of Apple, Samsung, Microsoft, you name it. Got the job. Definitely to this day, can remember the question being asked by my then boss at the time, Andrew Tyler, sitting in the office, and he asked me so many questions about my degree, which I actually have never forgotten, because I remember at the time I was like, remember what I learned in marketing, remember what I learned in business, because obviously when I was at university, I was so focused on hospitality. So I was trying to extract all of my kind of business and marketing knowledge that I did in kind of years 2 and 3 at ICMS. And anyhow, long story short, landed the job. That company I then stayed on with for many years and got acquired by Ingram Micro, the biggest technology distributor in the world. So I went from, you know, creating, you know, collateral for, you know, Microsoft, for Nokia, that then became Microsoft upon the acquisition, that then led me to doing all of the B2B in-store execution advertising for Beats by Dr. Dre, Apple, Samsung. It was just the most unbelievable experience. And anyhow, fast forwarding, stayed in technology for a number of years. And then I guess probably the most pivotal role, or the most exciting role that I ever had, was I was sitting in the role of a marketing manager role, and I was quite a young marketing manager, probably only had about 5 years experience at the time, so relevant to the industry. I was quite young as a marketing manager. And I saw my dream role come up, absolute dream role, again on Seek. And it was the head of e-commerce and digital for Reebok, Australia and New Zealand, and was on paper absolutely not qualified. I think they required 7 or 8 years or maybe even 9 years experience as a marketing manager. I had maybe 1 or 2 as a manager. And I just thought, and like so many of you perhaps who grew up in, little Reebok baby pumps, and I said to Stephanie, I'm so excited about this role, and absolutely was terrified. Anyhow, fast forward through the process, put myself out there, put together this amazing digital marketing strategy, which I must preface I'd never done before in my life, winged it, reached out to my network, spoke to a bunch of friends who were working in much more senior roles than I was at the time in marketing, and basically got through to the final round and got the job. And then went through the Reebok to Adidas buyout, which was amazing. So I was with them for many, many years, and kind of went into that sports fashion, and then ended up head of digital and e-commerce for Reebok, that then became Adidas. So did manage that integration. Then was the head of digital for Lacoste, and UGG as well. And then I moved back into tech, into a startup, working for the Right Fit, which is Australia's kind of most successful influencer marketing marketplace, as the CMO or Chief Marketing Officer. And then soon after that, or on the side, I should say, at nighttime every evening, was building the company that we have now 5 years later, called Ask Marketing. So that's a little bit about my journey. As a snapshot, was very much corporate, kind of progressed through the traditional steps, kind of taking big leaps each time I changed and really throwing myself in the deep end. And then, we're here now.
Obviously, let's not say that you were at these positions for too long, because then you would be about 105 years old from all of those. But the coolest thing is, for everyone out there watching this, is that is what's going to be great when you learn more about Ask Marketing, is because there is a lot of experience beforehand that's gone into this company. It's not like it's straight up, and there's been a lot of corporate experience that both Steph and Ali have. So I think that's great. And I guess, Steph, what?
Yeah. Well, I'll be a little bit shorter. I'm 2 years younger than Ali, so 2 years less of I guess, jobs. And also I did a master's degree. So I was at uni for 5 years. Felt like forever, loved it, but it was a long time. And so I guess when I graduated 7-8 years ago, and when I was going through the ranks, and I'm sure this is what you guys would all be experiencing now, what you're hearing about, is that internships and doing practical experiences or work experiences was everything. And so I spent, during my 5 years at uni, I guess committed over and above to going and working for free and giving up my time. So when I was doing exercise science, I was the junior exercise physiologist for a sporting team in the Western Suburbs. I was in my master's time, I was a junior journalist for an online blog. I was the junior marketer for a mortgage broking company. So I really, I guess, felt as though there was an expectation that if I didn't do that, I wouldn't get a job at the end of my degree. So I did that. I spent 5 years trying to work my way up in the field that I was studying, and popped out at the end of my degree, my second degree, of my master's of business, and actually landed what I thought back then was my dream job. So it was combining exercise science and marketing, and it was working as a junior marketer, or junior to mid-level marketer, for Michelle Bridges' 12-week body transformation, which you may or may not know, but is one of, or probably the oldest and most reputable Australian online weight loss and fitness programs.
Made famous from The Biggest Loser, which many of you, I'm sure, if you're potentially around the age of 20, you may have caught the end of the fame of.
Yeah, probably, a generation above. But
yeah,
so an online, essentially fully online business, marketing was all digital. I was thrust into the deep end, again, similar to Ali in that I was absolutely not qualified for the job when I got it. It was 5 to 7 years experience and I was fresh out of uni. No paid
intern.
I'd only been an intern, no paid experience under my belt at all. And so I went in, I guess, in that sense with such an open and proactive and positive attitude. I think passion over experience won me the job fundamentally. And essentially I stayed there for 4 to 5 years, working my way up through the ranks, loved what it was all about, learnt a bucket load and ended up in their senior marketing team running the marketing function.
Which, for out of interest, the entire company was the marketing function. So Stephanie had, she was managing multi-million-dollar advertising budgets, huge team.
The lessons learnt there were huge, and I think the lessons learnt there also highlighted gaps in the industry that Ali and I at night times over a wine would be discussing and talking about and to understand how we could potentially plug those gaps doing our own thing. And probably the concept of Ask Marketing evolved over probably 12 to 24 months in the background of us working full time. And I think since then it's obviously evolved a whole lot, but we, for context, were both working full time in our own jobs and building the business on the side at night
every day.
Yeah, for probably 1 to 2 years before Ali took the step out to work in the business, firstly part-time and then full-time, and then I came second. So we definitely did it in stages.
But like many of you would know, being in Sydney, you've got a lot of expenses in terms of living here, so we had to do it smartly. It's by no means a glamorous jump, as you might say.
Beth, you're such a pro because you've literally segued so perfectly to Juliet's next question.
Good.
Which is, I know this is all strategically planned.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, I've touched on this a little bit, but I mean, how did Ask Marketing actually start? Where did that idea come from?
Yeah, so I guess we always wanted to work together as sisters. We probably are more like twins than anything, and I think we grew up in a family of, our dad's a business owner, and that was a grandfather. Yeah, so it's just very felt very right to us, and that was always the end goal, whether we knew it or not at the start. That, I think, kind of evolved over time, and we really realized where our passions lie, and it really was to do something for ourselves. So when I just mentioned before, I guess, understanding gaps in the market, we were really looking to see how can we turn our knowledge and our experience from our previous roles into something that we can call our own. And Ask Marketing evolved because we were looking to, I guess, work with small to medium businesses at that stage in Australia and really kind of flip their marketing on its head, because a lot of businesses were having quite, I guess, poor or limited experiences with their marketing. And we were looking to do things differently. So without getting too into the granular weeds of what we do as a business, it's, I guess, quite technical, but it's a very different approach. And we've always, I guess, this will kind of come to another discussion I'm sure we're going to have, but we wanted to, stand very differently to other marketing companies out there, because there are hundreds just in Sydney alone.
Yeah.
And so, we definitely try and do things differently, and we do that. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I guess I was just going to add to what Juliet's question was around how it started. I mean, Stephanie's definitely painted the big picture. I guess what is probably really important to note is that our business stemmed from a real problem that we were setting out to solve. And just really quickly, in a nutshell, I was in a CMO role, which, for those of you thinking about going into marketing, is probably, well, undoubtedly is the highest kind of title or acronym for a title. So CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, is kind of the highest role that you can get to before you either go onto a board and be on a board of advisors, or you start your own business. So for me, I felt like, and that's by no means saying that I knew it all, because I absolutely don't, and still don't, and will never do, and will never. But I felt like I was in this role, sitting as CMO, presenting to boards of advisors on a weekly basis, presenting to investors. And there was this real issue that we found quite prevalent in the industry, which was that small to medium businesses were basically exhausting all of their resourcing in terms of their budget on heads of marketing type roles, like myself, on really quite comfortable salaries. But what that meant was that they were basically, and I'm sure a lot of you would appreciate this because you're growing up in the digital era where you've probably all got, 4, 5, 6 social media channels. Digital was rapidly evolving. So the fact that these startups and small to medium-sized businesses were spending and exhausting so much money on senior levels or kind of senior to mid-level strategy or senior to mid-level marketing people, it meant that they had no budget left to actually execute all of the channels and tactics that were required within marketing. So our business model started and originally 4 to 5 years ago set out to solve the problem of providing virtual CMO services, so virtual chief marketing officer services. At the time, 5 years ago, it's when every kind of startup and scale up company had a virtual CFO, chief financial officer, so they were outsourcing their financing, but no one was really outsourcing their marketing. So we kind of really paved that way in the Australian marketplace for that service. Business has now evolved. If you fast forward 4.5 years to today, it's evolved into a digital strategy business. But coming back to your question, Juliet, the business, other than the fact that we knew we wanted to work together, but we didn't know what that would look like, I guess it comes back to before we took the jump and even thought about how we would fund it, pay ourselves salaries, get an office, and all the things you've got to think about when you're starting a business, we really set out to solve a real market problem. And in order to do that, you had to identify it and research a lot first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on a little bit of so for everyone who hasn't checked out Ask Marketing and Ask Marketing Academy, you have to, because the thing that I noticed when I looked at some of this stuff a couple of years ago was it just feels and looks different. And particularly your videos, your content is really engaging, and it's hard to do that because there's so much noise out there. And although we were talking about how do we make this interesting for people, and I'm finding it fascinating listening to you both. I guess my question is, how are you continually staying relevant? And we'll talk a little bit about COVID, because as much as we should talk about COVID, I'm kind of over it, as everyone is. So yeah. I just want to know how you're continually evolving and how your content, just for instance, if anyone checks out Ali's LinkedIn, it's like your picture's like a nice video, and I didn't even know you could do that. Right?
The profile photo.
Yeah.
I'll actually share that tip because it's actually a very new feature that LinkedIn only launched 2 weeks ago. So I'll actually talk to that because it's a very new feature, which I think would be quite a nice value add for people. But in answer to your question, I guess there's so many different ways to answer this question, but I guess the first thing is to talk about the repurposing of content. So if you think about content as being, and I'm so sorry, there's somebody in our office kitchen making a smoothie.
Oh, it's a good time.
Either that or a cocktail.
Either that or a cocktail, I'm not sure.
And guys, we've been to their office, it's 100% a cocktail. So it's not a smoothie. So it's serious, but anyway, continue.
I guess, talking about content and creativity, I guess all of our content is created, our business is kind of divided into 3, and without going into them into too much detail, each 3 of the sides of our business or the arms of our business have very different target markets. But I guess if you always ensure that you have high quality content, the reason that you're probably seeing and engaging with that content, Todd, is that it was created for a purpose, but it's been repurposed in a really creative way, I guess. So for example, a lot of the educational content that I post on my LinkedIn and Stephanie's LinkedIn channels, which is video content of our team presenting to our education arm of the company that we'll talk about later, we thought would be really useful for other entrepreneurs and business leaders and people like, yourself, Todd, you're obviously seeing it. So I guess creativity is one thing, but I guess the most important thing about content now is not the creativity. It's about the education standpoint that it needs to come from. I think long gone are the days where you can just sell. I mean, I think everybody listening to this, you know, they might not actually fully comprehend that because you might not, you know, you're probably not used to it. But for us, I think we were on the back end of that industry of marketing that was so tightly interlinked and integrated with sales. So had you gone on LinkedIn, Todd, you might agree with this, but had you been on LinkedIn 4 or 5 years ago, it was just a news feed of people selling their offering and, you know, promoting roles in their company. But if you go on LinkedIn now, it's like an educational news feed of what's the latest and greatest in the industry.
I think I think it's just really important. I guess you say that we're really relevant, and thanks, Todd. Is that you know, like the things that we talk about, we genuinely are passionate about, and so I think we come across as an authentic, you know, figure of authority in the area that we are experts in. We are definitely not experts in everything by any means, but we really stay in our lane and really try and provide value in the area that we know and love, because someone will find value from that.
And look, I am going to ask it because I think obviously for a lot of the people here that have been through the last 2 years and finishing up high school now and are thinking about ICMS, they've gone through a really rough time with not being able to have normal school and not a normal year 11 and year 12 experience because of COVID. So how has that lovely pandemic affected your business? And do you have any kind of advice or just anything to say to those students out there that kind of haven't had that normality that a lot of us have?
Yeah. I guess for us, we had quite a unique experience business-wise because our business before COVID was 100% virtual. So we, from an operational standpoint, it was kind of business as usual for us. But in saying that, I guess understandably across all industries, there was definitely cutting of budgets by businesses of our clients. Yep. So whilst we continued relatively steadily, we definitely saw a slight drop. And what we would say to that is we took the opportunity to kind of turn it into a positive. So when you're so busy running a business, you don't think about how you can better make your business better. You don't have time. You're servicing others. You are making sure staff are okay. You're making sure every client has the best experience. And so we took that a little bit of extra time we actually pulled together an incredible research piece on our market to a primary research piece called the white paper. And it essentially was a study of our target market to better understand what they needed from a marketing company in the market, and how we could best equip ourselves to serve that. So that was a huge 2 to 3 month project that we absolutely would not have done if COVID hadn't hit. We really finessed our processes and our systems and really kind of streamlined everything. So for us, whilst, you know, it was a shit time, we hated being inside. We're outdoor people. We love socializing with our friends, our family. Like we couldn't even see each other. So for us, it incredibly personally challenging. But I think the attitude we took was what little positives can we take out of this from business, and tried to focus on them.
The only other thing I'll add to that is one side of our business was working with very mature, established, quite well-known brands. But then the other side is working with tech startups and apps. And the one of the most beautiful things that's come out of COVID is, and I'm sure everyone's heard it, and it's like almost an overused word now, but it's purpose-driven companies. So the companies that are being founded out of this pandemic are just unbelievable. So out of something so dark and something so testing for so many people has come this really creative push of these companies that are and they're founded by people the same age as people on this call, you know, 17 to 25 years old, who have an idea or a need. And I won't talk about too much about it because these are companies that are, you know,
secretive.
A bit secret. They're about to launch in the next few months, but you know, they're jumping into accelerator programs and incubator programs, and they start out as this idea of solving this problem, in the industry or making life easier. And I guess, you know, the people on this call are probably more tech savvy than we are. So, I mean, as everyone would understand, everyone's using an app every second of the day. Our phone's tracking us 24/7. And the most incredible creative ideas have come from needs that have been established through being stuck at home.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
And the only last thing I'll add is our education arm, Ask Marketing Academy, actually launched off the back of COVID. So
Yeah, true.
it was kind of another huge project that we, out of the research and understanding of the market that we saw in the emerging marketing space, of, you know, your 18 to 25-year-olds wanting to go into the industry. As some of you may well be sitting in that kind of seat right now, that was a project that we developed and launched in COVID and just as COVID at the end of 2020 last year. So we tried to turn it into a positive and really took what we could see in the market.
For sure. And look, as I saw Ali looking at the questions.
So many good ones.
We would here, but it kind of looks like we're going to tackle the camera because it's a little bit. So please feel free to ask any questions that you like.
We're going to answer them at the end, aren't we, Todd? We're going to leave a little bit of time.
When we have time at the end. So
okay, awesome. What was it like actually founding a business with your sister like that? What was that like?
Well, I wouldn't have done it with anyone else.
Amazing.
For sure. I mean, starting a business in general is just hard work.
Huge roller coaster.
It's I saw a meme the other day and it was about business owners having like 101 emotions in one day. Like one minute you're on the top of the world, next minute you're at the very bottom of darkness and then you're straight back up again.
Yeah.
So it's true. It's almost certainly real. I guess we're realists. And the one thing that we're never going to sit here and say is that it's super glamorous and fabulous. And whilst it is at times absolutely amazing, and it really is, it's the most rewarding thing that we've ever done, it's by no means easy. And I guess we took the very conservative, practical route. And by that, I mean, we're all in Sydney. If you're thinking about going to ICMS, you will likely be in Sydney at some point soon. You know, it's an expensive place to live. We have, you know, passions outside of work that, you know, as everybody does. And we wanted to be able to fund that and fund our lifestyle. And I guess the one thing that I will note that's really, I guess, important is that, and Stephanie touched on it before, is that you kind of, very few people are in a fortunate enough position to leave their awesome, likely very well paid salary and just jump into having your own business. It just doesn't really normally work out that way. So my advice would be to, I mean, if you can do that, awesome. That wasn't our experience. As Stephanie touched on, I took the leap first. That was about 4.5 years ago. I left a full-time CMO role, full-time salary, and dove into the business in a full-time capacity. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And then Stephanie came on board 2 years later. And the reason so I was working in the business full-time, and kind of building the team in a more cost-effective option, using staff all around the world to build out the team. And then we only brought Stephanie in at a point where we could afford to pay her the same salary that she was getting paid in her head of acquisition marketing role in her real job, I guess you'd say, in her other job. So it's definitely a step-by-step approach with a lot of key milestones, and key milestones for us have always been about bringing on the best people. And the best person was always Stephanie. And whilst we couldn't afford to necessarily do that from the outset, it's something that we're really proud to say. Stephanie's been full-time for, you know, almost 18 months now. So that's been a really exciting journey. We'll, you know, continue to build out the team as well. So it's definitely
What I'll add to that, I guess, is, you know, we're two women in business. And I think when we, I guess, conceptualize this idea, 5 years ago, and the business has evolved since then, business ownership is a male-dominated area. And I think we have been, I guess, having the two of us definitely empowers us to stand in a room with men, as we often do, to feel just as, I guess, if not more knowledgeable and proud of our achievements. So I think that's another side of things, that being sisters, I think we really lean on each other for strength as well, and knowledge sharing. So I think from that side of things, we've seen the industry and business and entrepreneurship evolve, and there's so many more women starting their own businesses in marketing as well, and so that is super exciting to see. So it's actually a really exciting time for us as females, as business owners and in marketing as well.
That perfectly segues into my next question again, which is so amazing. And I'm actually really excited to ask you this, because I think because I'm a young woman in business, and I have a lot of people that I look up to. I have a lot of role models, and I wanted to ask, like, who do you look up to? Who did you look up to when you were starting this? And why do you think having a mentor or having someone to look up to is important? Like, do you think that is something that's important?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess having each other was, as I said, a huge helping hand, and we really lent on each other for kind of that, I guess, deep emotional support through the journey at the start, at least. And since then, we're actually a part of a business network club called Cub of United Business, and we've been involved for at least 2 years. That is our form of mentorship. So that is essentially a network of Australian entrepreneurs who are all, going in there with an open mind and willing to connect with other business leaders and share their knowledge, support, learn, give back. And so that's a huge, support of our business, and a huge focus that we will
always
be involved in, and it helped us tremendously. There's a mixed bag of people, personalities, genders, business types in there as well. So the learnings and the lessons that we've got from that group is incredible, and it's continuing to grow. So absolutely, the biggest lessons we've learned have probably come out of the epic business leaders we've learned we've met in there.
I will also say, I was just going to add to that, is that whilst we don't have a mentorship, I guess, like a formal mentorship arrangement, it's much more of an informal networking private business club that we're a member of, that we seek so much value out of. We do listen to so many amazing podcasts about entrepreneurship and developing a tech startup and scale-ups, I should say. A couple of amazing ones is, of course, if we go for ones that you might have heard of before, is, Mamma Mia and the No Filter podcast. That's a really great place to start from a business entrepreneurship standpoint. If you're not too much of a podcaster, that's a really great place to start. It's short, snackable, really pointed. You'll know a lot of the brands on there. They interviewed Bed Threads recently, Jagged, a lot of the amazing activewear brands that are coming out of Australia. That's the
Lady Startups
podcast. That's a really good place to start. The Cub podcast, which is the business club that I mentioned about, is another amazing one. It's called Catching Up with Cub, CUB, Catching Up with CUB. We're actually on there, but you can take a listen at that. There's a lot of amazing female and male entrepreneurs of hugely successful companies through to startups and scale up. So
and another really good one who is actually a very good business friend of ours, we share an office with, is actually called Give It a Nudge. So it's a podcast that speak with startups in Australia who go global, hugely successful businesses. So if there's any, needing inspiration out there, that's definitely another huge one that we love personally as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And, I mentioned earlier about your videos and your content and how engaging they are, but I also have seen some of the blooper reels, and so just for everyone out there, just so you know that this doesn't happen in one take. So I guess just for the audience and people just to understand, do you have any kind of great epic fail stories, or just that haven't gone how you planned? And note we don't have much time, so
I have a funny one that actually happened yesterday. So
it's fresh. This is perfect.
It's so fresh.
Yeah. So this actually wasn't, when we saw the agenda of the questions, this actually wasn't something that we were going to talk about, and this literally happened yesterday, so it's quite timely. So I was on a strategy call with Channel 9 yesterday, who have an advertising arm to their business, as everyone would know. And I'm sitting there with the VP of sales for Channel 9, and he goes, "Hey, sissy." And I was like, "Sorry?"
Wow.
And he goes,
Ali.
"Hey, sissy," to me. He said to me. And I said, "I'm so sorry," because Stephanie called me sissy. And he goes, "Just so you know, every time you send me an email, every time you send me a Zoom link or a meeting request, it comes up as sissy at Ask Marketing." And I was like, "You are joking." So for all it's just ridiculous. Like, I have no idea how it happened, but essentially Stephanie obviously has me in her phone as sissy, and she set up the Google Drive account 5 years ago. And so I've literally got the VP of sales for Channel 9 sitting in his office thinking, who is, I mean, it's fine, he's a great friend, but so I think that's just the lesson to take out of all of this is that, the deal was done, it's great. Like, these grand stuff ups are just going to always happen, and I guess it's so important to stay real and
have a laugh
and just have a laugh and just be natural and just be yourself, and it's okay. I think if anything, it creates a really relatable and beautiful connection when these things happen. So I guess don't be afraid to make mistakes or just to laugh yourself off, and don't take things too seriously.
Be too much yourself when you're showing that I call Ali sissy and it's okay. She is my sister. So, it's not, it doesn't have to be prim and proper all the time.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think that's why you guys are doing so well, because every time we get to meet you, and we're lucky that we've met a number of times, and you do so much for ICMS, and we're thankful for that. And you're just yourselves. And I think it's really important for everyone to note, it's really hard to fake sincerity. If you're real and you're true to yourself, good things are going to happen to everyone. And I love that about you too. And we can have a laugh.
Yeah.
And I think, Steph, the next thing we need to do is change sissy to another name and not tell Ali, and then see what happens. But,
Todd, we can talk about that offline, and then
I've got some great options for you. Hey, so also the cool thing about this, when we always do these webinars and things, that we like to give something back to our students and the people listening. So I think the first thing is, it would be great to learn a little bit about the next part of your journey and your business, which is Ask Marketing Academy. And then also a little bit of a promo that you can offer. And to everyone, once you hear this amazing offer, we will send out to all the registrations and everyone listening after this, and you'll find out more about this, and you can follow the links and do all that fun stuff.
Sure. Well, it's super exciting because it's so, I guess, relevant for you guys on this call, in that, from personal experience with both Ali and I, is we finished school, went to uni, got our first jobs, we're working for multiple years, and there is this gap between what you learn in school, in uni, in your first job, to actually then applying it and feeling confident in the way that you're applying it in the marketing industry. And so we developed our new business, Ask Marketing Academy, and our first foundational course is a digital marketing bootcamp, and that essentially equips you with every single facet of the digital marketing realm, and there's plenty of them, in a really, I guess, tangible, quick, fast, 2 hours a module, can finish it in 2 weeks arrangement. And, we've, I guess, been able to help so many marketers from school to uni to have been in their first job. And it's just really helped them to, I guess, instill the value and instill the knowledge of marketing that can be very theoretical and very complex into really simplistic, nitty-gritty knowledge that you use in your real life, and we use in our own worlds every single day. So we value ICMS, and we want you guys obviously to have a really special offer. So Todd's gonna pop it in the chat now, but we've got a special link for you guys. It's 60% off of our bootcamp. It's normally $249, and for you guys it's $99, and it's available to the end of the week.
Amazing.
On Friday at 11:59. So definitely get involved, and we'd love to have you in the community. It's essentially filled with marketers on their journey, and you'll have access to our Facebook community for life, for anything marketing related or business related that you can ask questions for life. So
I'll just add to that, to put it into practice, I guess. Think about it as, each and every single module kind of bridges that gap between the taught theory that Stephanie mentioned, and then, for example, how Netflix are doing it or how Reebok were doing it. And we draw from real brands, like global brands that are very well recognized in the industry that we've worked for or worked with in our careers, and bring their practical application of that theory to help you to apply it in your next role, your first role or your next role, I should say. So it's really tangible. There's a lot of recognizable brands in there that you will be able to extract real world practical advice from. And test your learnings with practical, quizzes and assessments along the way. So
and look, guys, I've seen it, and it is unbelievable. It's really good. So you should check it out. And it's as Ali and Steph said, you don't have to do it in one night. It's something that you can take your time with, but it's really going to help you, alongside maybe studying at ICMS or wherever you are choosing to study. It's very, very practical based and based on industry experience. So, that's a great offer. I think you're gonna email it out to everyone after this podcast. We've got a Skywriter. It's all happening.
You won't miss out.
All right, and I think I've got one more question from me. What advice would you give to someone who's sort of just starting their marketing career or their business career? They're just getting into the corporate world.
Do you want me to take that?
Such a good question. Yeah.
There's so many different facets and ways you can answer this question, but I guess the most important one to me, and this kind of all is quite pointed because we had another one of those crazy worlds colliding moments today at a work lunch that we had a few hours ago, where you just realize that your network is everything. So I would just say that it is absolutely like your network is your net worth, and it really does ring true. There's people that, for example, I mentioned my first boss when I worked in technology for those cool brands is still somebody that I have in my network today, and we still do a lot of business together. Stephanie, as an employee in her last company for 4 years, brought her colleague now into our company, and she's now left and is working with one of our partner agencies. So that's just 2 examples, like off the top of my head, but I would just definitely say that it is absolutely not what you know. What you know definitely helps, and we're all potentially, we're graduates of university. You guys are about to embark on that journey. If you haven't already, that's absolutely so important. You need that as a foundation, without doubt. But it is the people that you surround yourself with, and I've had this conversation with Todd many times, but it's, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're definitely in the wrong room. And as cliche as that sounds, it's so true. And I think if you've always got that kind of inquisitive mind and open spirit to keep learning, and you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, who are experts in their field, you'll definitely go far. I'll give kind of 2 practical tips with that. One, if you are a school leaver, all the way through to being at university, get on LinkedIn. It's a non-negotiable. If you're not on LinkedIn, you're not in the industry. You need to be on LinkedIn. You need to be active on LinkedIn. You need to have an exceptionally professional profile on LinkedIn. You need to be active on LinkedIn, and you need to start building your network on LinkedIn. So whilst you might be about to embark on studying or have already started studying at ICMS for the next 3 years, for example, you might be feeling as though, and I know ICMS is amazing for industry training, but whilst you're not out there in, your postgraduate role, you can still be building your network on LinkedIn. And I think that's a really important note. I will also share the quick tip that Todd talked about. You can now actually make your profile photo on LinkedIn a video. So the way you do that is which is obviously so important to have stand out, to stand out, and also to have a personal introduction to a prospective employer, a prospective network partner that you might, or a prospective friend that you might meet on LinkedIn. if you go onto your profile, you must be on your mobile, and go into the section directly below your profile called the settings. I'm just going to open it now so I give you the right name. So if you go onto your profile, and just below, I don't know if you can see that, just below the connect button, you can see this section here, which is called your dashboard, this section here. And you basically just need to flick on creator mode, it's called. So turn creator mode on. And then what you can do is you can actually upload, again, on your mobile device. This is my profile. You can actually click on my link. It's not going to work because I'm logged in as myself, but you can see the orange circle. So that's my photo, but then it turns into a video when I click it. Sorry, it's not going to work because but that's where you add it. So I would definitely say, as a tangible tip, to like a key takeaway, to really utilize LinkedIn to as a great
just all about trying to make you are your personal brand. Whilst we're in marketing and we're connecting with businesses and marketing businesses, it's all about you as your personal brand, and that is that is how you need to shine. So starting that process early and really finessing that over your years at uni, so then you are ready to hit the ground running with some amazing connections being made along the way. It would be incredibly valuable for us to have known 15 years ago.
Sure, it's such good advice, and I love the personal brand area, and it's super important because you need to stand out. And I think I'm going to need to take 2 weeks of annual leave to get my video.
God, you've got us. Just ask.
I think of the angles, but it's about standing out, right, and being engaging. And I opened, I was like, oh,
yeah,
and that's, remember that. So I think, and now that when everyone copies this, you'll have to find something else. But it's if you're one of the first to do it, then people are going to remember that. So look, this has been amazing, and we have a little bit, just a few things. I know there's quite a few questions that have come through. Is there anything, Ali, that you feel that, because as I said, we don't want to lose our news anchor position here. We feel very professional. So is there anything that you feel that we haven't covered, or some questions? And thank you for everyone for sending them in. And
so much. There's such good questions. Maybe we'll tackle, there's one that's quite important, I guess, that's come from, I think it's Giuseppe Bell. Lovely to meet you, Giuseppe. I'm hoping I'm saying your name correctly. Do you think marketing, so Giuseppe's question is, do you think marketing is a career in the future? Will there be job growth in marketing in the next few years? In short, yes.
Huge.
It is, there's one thing we know about what the pandemic has done in the terms of recruitment, and that is that it is a candidate's market. So the job market is yours. It's a really exciting one, and it is absolutely in the ball is in the court of good candidates at the moment, and good candidates are very, very hard to come by. And what I will say off the back of that, which is also an advantage for anyone thinking about going into the marketing industry, potentially yourself, Giuseppe, is the fact that digital marketing has never been so diversified. So I think as of last week, HubSpot announced there's 42 facets of digital marketing now. Like what? 42. So, and every single facet is so different and so technical, and nobody can do all of them. That's one thing that's changed in our time being in marketing, is that you can't be a Facebook advertising specialist, a digital strategy specialist, a website developer, a UX designer. You can't do it all, and nobody expects you to. There's no such thing as a unicorn anymore. So there is a lot of demand for the technical specialities of marketing, and there's a lot of demand for the creative content side of marketing. People don't want to go offshore. People don't want to outsource it and offshore it. People want local talent in Sydney who they can meet, build a relationship with, and draw innovative ideas from. So in short, Giuseppe, it is probably, and I know we're a bit biased, but it is absolutely, if we didn't still love the industry, we would have left by now. So it's definitely an exciting place to be, and there is so much demand for good quality talent in marketing. So,
and I hope that probably answers Phil's question, which was what's the most rewarding thing about working in marketing, and why should I pick it as a potential career? So just the dynamic nature of the industry, it's continually evolving, particularly the digital space. So it's super exciting, and yeah, we're thrilled that we're in it. So
so true. No day is ever the same.
Yeah, and look, it's really been a pleasure to talk to you both, and for everyone who has been here and listened and watched this. There's so many things that you can do now. Firstly, check out the Ask Marketing and Ask Marketing Academy websites, right? And all your socials. You're more through LinkedIn than anything else.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, jump on, connect with us on LinkedIn. We can continue the conversation and answer any questions.
Yeah, good call. Happy to answer. I know there's a bunch of questions that we haven't had a chance to answer, and they're all super juicy. So connect with us on LinkedIn. My name on LinkedIn is Alexandra King, not Ali. But I'm sure Todd or Juliet might share the links in the wrap up email. Happy to answer any of your questions and take the conversation offline on LinkedIn. Offline on LinkedIn.
and also, it's just been a really humbling and proud experience to be sitting next to you, Juliet, because Juliet is still a student and you're like a professional news anchor. So
it's amazing.
It's been awesome, and it just shows how lucky we are at ICMS to have not only, Juliet's working in the office, but such great students. And we're proud of our alumni and we're proud of our students. And I think it's been really nice to hear from all of you tonight. And yeah, we just look forward to catching up again soon. Hopefully, girls, maybe next year you can come speak to some of the marketing students.
Oh yeah.
Love to.
That would be nice.
That'd be cool.
So much fun.
Love to.
Yeah. And then we can go to your old workplace, Hugo's, after.
Oh my goodness. Does Shark Bar still?
Yeah. Juliet knows.
This podcast will need to be edited now, I think.
Well, thanks for having us, Todd. It's a joy.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your awards show now, and we can't wait to catch up again soon.
Thank you so much for having
us.
us.
Juliet.
Bye.